Hi, everybody. Welcome back to In the Cards and Stars. I'm your host, Bert Madrid Mogensen, and welcome to spooky season. So it begins. I'm drinking out of my honestly terrifying skull chalice. Got this a couple years ago, and still just as scary every time I get it out for the holidays. For the holidays for Halloween. Imagine this like on my Christmas table. Anyway, I got my ears on. What am I? I think I'm a wolf. It's like it reminds me of, and I'm gonna do more costumes, obviously. This one, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it was a little bit thrown together because, well, that's life. But I do have my spooky decor in the back. Check it out. Ooh, in Mean Girls, Karen, she's like, "I'm a mouse, duh." That's how I feel right now. So bear with me. I am a werewolf. I am a member of the wolf pack. We just need the other dogs in here, the puppies in here, and yeah, we make a wolf pack. Okay. So, anywho, what we were talking about today is actually not super fun. This is kind of crazy. It's a little spooky. It's weird. Michael's going to join us in a little bit for this episode, but he is not here right now. He went to go see the Joker movie. I warned him against it. We'll see what he says when he comes back. Yeah, I everybody was saying it was so bad. So I was like trying to warn him and he's like, I don't want to know. I just want to go see what I think. So he might be suffering right now. Thoughts and prayers for Michael watching that movie. But what we're going to get into before he joins us is just going to talk about the birth charts of Lyle and Erik Menendez. Obviously, the new Netflix series Monsters has brought a lot of light to this case that people haven't really talked about since the 80s. It's something that happened a while ago and it was really crazy at the time. There was a lot of fanfare around it, but Ryan Murphy's new series has definitely brought more light onto the subject and now they are even going to do a resentencing hearing. I don't know. These are questions for Lawyermog. I don't even know the right terminology. So he's going to talk to us about the technical stuff. I'm going to ask him questions and we're just going to see like what he thinks from the perspective of a lawyer, what could happen, why they might be doing this right now. There is some new information that's come out. Of course, celebrities like Kim Kardashian are jumping on this. I always think it's interesting when, celebrities will definitely cling on to like certain cases, but we'll just see. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. But we are going to look at the astrology. We're going to look at the birth charts of these two. Actually, I was so shocked to find that their birth times were available. And you know how I love that. So this is definitely, getting off to a good start knowing their birth times. We have all their information. So we're going to talk about the birth charts. I'm going to pull a couple cards and then we're going to ask Michael some technical tea to see what could actually happen at the end of November. I also think the timing is strange with Pluto finally moving into Aquarius right around the time of their retrial, resentencing, hearing, whatever, question mark, whatever it's called, right around that time. So let's just talk about their birth charts in the context of that bigger picture. And then also what their different placements might show. Now, disclaimer before I get into this is for entertainment purposes only. If you have some of these placements in your birth chart, please do not think that this has anything to do with you. I've definitely gotten DMs before where people have been like, oh my gosh, this is also in my birth chart. Does that mean XYZ about me when I read celebrity birth charts? And the answer is no. Please don't think that. I don't want anybody feeling stressed out or worrying that something is like in their charts that's heinous or that, has a negative reflection on them. All of us have free will. Our birth charts have just as much positive potential as negative potential. It's just how we use it. So when I'm analyzing their birth charts, it's in the context of what we know, the actions that they have taken, and they have admitted to killing their parents. So, again, trigger warning as well. We're going to talk about, it's just the subject matter. It's a little heavy. It's kind of wild. I actually think it's really strange that we're living in a time period where true crime and these things have become so popular. And I did interview Dr. Ann Burgess on my talk show, BZN TV, and I've shared the video here on the YouTube channel. I will put that link below for anybody who wants to check that out. But Dr. Burgess was actually on their team back in I guess it was the 80s, 90s. She was on their team and she did a psychoanalysis of them. She, thinks that they actually were molested. Again, trigger warning, this is heavy subject matter. And when I asked her about what her thoughts are about why people think or why people are so interested now in true crime, why it's become such a huge genre. She said, and I actually thought this perspective was very like high-minded, very positive. She said that it's because we all want to be safe. And so we're fascinated by what has gone wrong and evil so that we can protect ourselves. It's kind of like our brain's way of, going into the darkness to understand things so that we can make sure we're safe. I like that perspective. It was a lot less morbid than what I was thinking, like why people become so obsessed with these types of stories. So, that's what she thinks. And also, if you haven't checked out Mastermind to Think Like a Killer, which is a Hulu documentary all about Dr. Burgess, you've got to watch it. It is so good. And especially for my female viewers, I think our channel is like 90% women. Whoop, whoop. But also for the men who are here, whoop, whoop, thanks for being here. But you guys will also be so inspired because the stuff that she overcame, she was like the only female working with the FBI. Like, I mean, it's so inspiring. Just, it's interesting, it's inspiring, it's intriguing. Highly recommend. So, okay, it's called Mastermind. It's on Hulu. Okay, I shall sip my tarot tea and we shall begin. Oh, also, other announcement, I've booked a ghost hunter to come on the show. I'm so excited. So, we have a ghost hunter coming up. It'll either be next week or the following week. We have to coordinate with her schedule. But we're gonna do I don't wanna give too much away, but we may try to have a ghostly encounter ourselves. I'm already scared. It'll be good though. We're going full Spooktober. I'll have a better costume then. Okay. I feel like I have to be serious about this because this is like kind of stressful and sad and dark. So we're gonna start with I have Lyle's chart pulled up. So we're going to start with Lyle Menendez. Lyle is, of course, the older brother. Again, like I said, I love that we have birth times. So let's just check out the main placements in his chart and what they could mean. So when I first look at his chart, I like to look at people's date of birth. That gives you just a quick birthday personality kind of vibe for them. Lyle was born on January 10th. So the 10th is a one energy. Now, as opposed to being born on the 1st, the 10th is actually intensified one energy because zero always intensifies in numerology when you're talking about energy. So for Lyle, he is an independent person. A lot of people were saying that a lot of the speculation has said that Lyle, being the older brother, he was sort of like the ringleader or maybe the mastermind behind the actual murders, the actual killings of the parents. I would say someone born on the 10th would certainly be capable of masterminding something like that because the one energy with the zero, it gives you a powerful sense of single mindedness. You are able to think up new solutions, innovative, and when used for, darkness, you can follow through and make things happen. It's very independent. Also, 10 people on the 10th tend to not really care what other people think. So they will do what they want to do 9 times out of 10. Okay, moving on. He was born with the sun in Capricorn. Okay. Now, Capricorn, again, is the last disclaimer. I'm not going to give any more disclaimers, so I don't want to keep stopping. But I have this like feeling of guilt. Like every time I say something negative, I'm like, oh, but what about the Capricorns listening? Like, are they gonna is it gonna hurt their feelings? So last disclaimer. Again, this is through the lens of someone who is an admitted murderer, okay? A killer. So that's the way that I'm interpreting this chart. So this is truly looking at the most negative expression of these energies, okay? Now, the sun in Capricorn, when we look at the tarot deck, Capricorn is associated with the devil card. And this is also associated with Pan, with this energy of power, this energy of potential manipulation. We also have had Pluto in the sign of Capricorn since 2008. So that has been a cycle for everyone, Capricorn placements. That has been a cycle of intensity and lessons learned. And people with prominent Capricorn placements like Diddy, Capricorn rising, this is a time of reckoning. Also, it's interesting for me that the chart or that the retrial or the resentencing or the case being looked at again in court, that is happening at the end of November because we know that November 19th, Pluto finally moves from Capricorn into Aquarius, where it's going to stay for the next 20 years, starting a brand new cycle for all of us. So we are in October, November. We are like kind of looking through some old things. This is a time of like really just drudging up anything that we need to deal with, especially in Capricorn houses. And if you have prominent Capricorn placements, you may feel a little bit of added intensity. There could be the ending of a story. So it's interesting for me that this is happening now. Capricorns on the negative side can be extremely selfish. It is an earth sign. Earth is all about material goods, what we build, what we are creating in this life. When I think of Capricorn, I think of the desire to build your own legacy. I think of money, wealth, power. That's what Capricorns do. They are here to create their own abundance, and not just abundance, because that's more like when I think of Taurus, I think of abundance. When I think of Capricorn, I think of not just abundance for the sake of being abundant and luxuriating. It's more of like abundance for the sake of having power. Whether you're going to use it in the positive way and be a force for good in the world and be a powerful person who is able to, have agency and make choices and feel empowered in your life, or you could be someone who wants power for the sake of finally being able to tell others what to do or being able to have control. Now, what's interesting about this is that for him, with the sun in Capricorn, the sun is our ego. The sun is what we're kind of, grappling with on a different level from our rising sign. The sun sign, the way I look at it, it's like what we're growing into. So we kind of go through different phases of our sun sign as we get older. Our rising sign, I look at that as just like your pure natural essence. It's like you don't have to try. It's just like who you are. It's who you are today, who you were yesterday. Deep down, like, when people really get to know you, you're going to give off your rising sign energy. But your sun sign energy, it can be revealed in different ways through different projects. Sometimes you may lean into your sun sign more, sometimes you may not. Sometimes you may be experiencing lessons associated with mastering the energy of your sun sign. So if somebody is a Capricorn, I keep hitting my mic. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. I hope y'all can't hear that. So, someone who is a Capricorn sun, especially while Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008, would certainly be dealing with ego issues around self defining. Like, who am I? Who am I really? So, people have said that these two have reformed a lot. I would say that with Pluto, the great transformer, in Capricorn, with that being his sun sign, that's not out of the realm of possibility that Lyle has transformed from 2008 until now. And if he has, really truly been remorseful and if he truly has changed, and, then I think there could be a positive karmic reward in some way with, him getting released or something around November, because that is closing out a karmic cycle. We've all been kind of tested in the Capricorn areas of our life. So I don't know. It's very complicated though, right? And this is what I want to ask Lawyer Moog about. And there's also like a lot of moral and ethical issues. And there's a lot of information that we still don't know. Like none of us can 100% say that we know what happened or why, because none of us were there. So this is one of those very complicated cases, right? Okay. So if let's go down and look at his houses. Which house is ruled by Capricorn for him? Okay, so interesting. So for Lyle, his ninth house is ruled by Capricorn. He also has a natal sun and obviously a natal Mercury there. So the way that he thinks. Now, the ninth house is about your philosophies. It's also about how you spend time like traveling or in solitude to like figure yourself out, to figure out your philosophies, who you want to be, the way that you think. It's about like big ideas and our overarching philosophy of life. So for that to be transforming since 2008, I mean, I think that's a positive thing. The sun and Mercury both there. I think that's a positive thing for sure. So there, like I said, there's a chance that he has had a real shift in mindset. Okay. Let's look at his north node. Okay. So, the north node, as we know, this is your destiny. This is where you're headed in this life. And it's always opposite your south node, which is where you've been. And that is childhood. And it can also indicate a past life if you believe in that. So, for Lyle, oh my gosh, wow, this is pretty intense. His north node is in Aries, which he's having his nodal return. Everyone with Aries north node is having their nodal return right now. I'm included in that group. But I'm not like anyway. Okay. So this is in the 12th house for him. The 12th house is about mental health. It's also places of seclusion, hospitals, and prisons. So North Node in Aries. Aries is independence. It is free. It is like free thinking, independent. This is like it's a fire energy. It's a trailblazer. So like to have all of this like fiery energy in the 12th house, that is tough because this is someone who wants to run, go, do, see things, be out there, be independent, create something like and in the 12th house, especially for him because it's a literal place of confinement in prison. That is tough. Like for someone to be able to survive this type of north node, they really would have to master their mind, master their own energy. And it's interesting to me that Pluto has been in the house of higher mind for him since 2008. So I definitely think he's been leading up to this crescendo. This north node is a crescendo point, this north node transit. I think we only have a few months left of the north node. So his north node return, it's going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. So this has been a really big time period for him. It is not shocking to me that also this is coming up during his nodal return, that we're talking about him during this nodal return. We tend to have a lot of visibility around our nodal return themes. I am curious to see if he is able to ever leave prison, though, because if your ultimate destiny, if your North Node is in the 12th house of confinement, this might be someone who stays in prison the rest of their lives. I mean, as much as I don't like to say that, or maybe I do, I don't even know. Like, maybe he should be there. Um, that's what I see when I look at this. So, if we look at his other placements, he's Taurus rising. Taurus rising people can be pretty stubborn. They want what they want. His moon is in the first house. This is someone who feels first, thinks second. The first house, like I said, this is what just flows. Also, where we have our moon is what we care about. It is what touches us emotionally. To have your moon in Taurus, there is a lot of energy around material things. Again, it's the material world, it's money, it's abundance. So, very emotional around money. So, I do see, just looking at his birth chart, I do see how likely it would be that someone with their moon in their Taurus first house with a Capricorn sun could get to the point where they do commit murder over things, over wanting things, feeling emotional about wanting these things and wanting to have power and control. Now, I don't know, maybe the other stuff happened too. That was, obviously very dark and horrible. He does have his fifth house ruled by Virgo. Virgo energy is like the soft maiden. Wherever we have Virgo in our charts, we do have to make sure that we're careful that other people don't overpower us in that part of our lives. Like I said, it's different for everyone. A lot of the time, Virgos will go through the worst relationships. They will, like, okay, Cassie, for example, she's a Virgo, right? And she might be the one that actually puts Diddy or started the whole process, started the snowball effect that is going to land Diddy potentially in prison for the rest of his life. So Virgos will also rise up from the ashes, but there are some themes about self empowerment and self esteem that Virgos have to learn. And that wherever we have Virgo ruling one of our houses, we can feel a sense of powerlessness at some point in our lives. And then we master that, and then we become the powerful in that house or in that part of our lives. But there is a theme of having to just kind of deal with some of those things that come up. For him, this is in his fifth house of children, fun, romance. Jupiter, Uranus, and Pluto are all in this fifth house. So to me, yeah, I could definitely see this looking like surprising things happening. Pluto, the underworld, Hades, hellish, surprising things, and then Jupiter, a lot of it happening in that fifth house. So this definitely does look like someone who very well could have been through all the horrible things and abuses. I just got goosebumps that, these two claim that they have been through. So I do see that. And that's very tragic. That's very sad. His 11th house is ruled by Pisces and contains Mars and Saturn. I mean, sorry, Mars and Chiron. We actually have Saturn in Pisces right now. So his public perception, the 11th house is, this is about the public perception, your audience. Um, the fact that this Ryan Murphy show is coming out now while Saturn is transiting his 11th house, this is tough. I mean, this is not easy. I don't think that he likes the way that he's been portrayed. And I think they even said that. I think they spoke out in the media about how they didn't like the way that it was portrayed, or their family did, or someone. But I don't think that he likes the way that it was portrayed. He has Mars there as well as Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. So the 11th house, public perception, the way that you're seen and the way that you interact with groups, for him, that is a big deal. He's had to go through a lot in that part of his life. I do think that having Mars conjunct your Saturn, and I mean Mars conjunct transiting Saturn and Chiron conjunct transiting Saturn, which I think this is going to continue till 2026. We still have Saturn in Pisces. This is kind of tough. Wherever we have Pisces in our charts, we're really going through it a little bit, like a glow up, grow up, a grow up to glow up period. That's what I would call, wherever Saturn is transiting. It's like you have to take it seriously. It really has major consequences, like the way that you deal with this part of your life. And Saturn just doesn't take excuses. It's like the most difficult coach you've ever had, who makes you continue to do reps until you get it perfect. So for him, I think that the way that he is presenting himself in the public is going to be really important. I think that he's struggling around the way that that's happening right now. But the wounded healer, there's also a chance that if he has reformed, that we will see in November the fullness of that reformation, because Pisces is also associated on the positive side with unconditional love, kindness. If you look at the Pisces fish, it's like similar to like the Christian fish, which is all about like love your neighbor as yourself, um, you know, Christ-like energy. So I feel like there's a possibility that we could see him in this light if he truly has done the work. It will be revealed. But if he hasn't, then it also will be revealed. So this is going to be a really interesting November for them. Okay, let's see. And yeah, and Mars in the 11th house. Okay, so that's kind of an impersonal Mars, to be honest with you. It's more about the way you act in the world. It's not necessarily about like one-on-one connections, which I feel like that's good. And with Pisces, it's like I don't feel like the anger came from Mars. I feel like this was most likely, allegedly, premeditated, because the action had to have come from the Taurus, Capricorn placements that I just talked about. So the motivation, highly material, but also Pluto and Uranus in that fifth house. Um, the wounded inner child, definitely I could see him doing something and Jupiter there, something abundantly surprising and shocking. And literally Pluto, Hades, the underworld, and sending, his abuser to the underworld. I mean, his birth chart does make a lot of sense. Okay, so there's that. And I did hear Michael just get home. So I'm going to go through Erik pretty quick, and then we're going to bring him in and ask him some questions. Okay, so with Erik. So Erik was born on November 27th. Now, nine energy already, whenever I see someone born with nine energy, either on the 9th or the 27th, I'm one of those people, also, by the way, the 9th. There is a very interesting theme in their life where at one point their life looks one way in childhood, and then at a different point, there is a massive change. And typically, the change comes from strength and loss, or like gaining strength through loss. And I don't want to scare anybody, because it's not necessarily like a bad loss or something horrible, or, I don't mean that, but I do mean darker themes. I have noticed definitely tend to resonate with nine energy. Nine is completion, transformation. Nine is the only number that contains the energies of all the other numbers in numerology, because nine is the last number before we go back to one in numerology. So it's like the spiritual teacher, the spiritual leader, the last final stage. And so they tend to experience a range of emotions and have to put themselves in a range of different people's shoes in order to gain that wisdom, like, and like later in life to be wise. Okay. That's kind of their role. It's also humanitarian, someone who gives back. It's a sensitive soul, an artistic soul. So I just from looking at this, a 1 and a 9, and also Lyle being older, and I think that this is also part of the case, but definitely I think that Lyle was the brains of the operation. Um, Very much Erik could have been even more of a victim in some ways. I don't know. So let's talk about his chart. So he has the sun in Sagittarius, moon in Scorpio. Okay. Also intense. A lot of people with moon in Scorpio do go through intense transformation emotionally throughout their lives. And and the moon can represent your mother figure in life. Scorpio moon people typically had a mother figure that was prickly, not super nurturing, because that's a little bit intense. It can also indicate things like, that are of the underworld. So these emotional themes, this intensity, these traumas, definitely a lot of Scorpio moon people can go through these types of things. Okay, sun in Sagittarius, moon in Scorpio, Mercury in Sagittarius, Venus in Scorpio retrograde at 9 degrees. Oh man, yeah, this is tough. Chiron in Aries. So Lyle's north node in Aries is conjunct Eric's Chiron in Aries. And Lyle's north node is in the 12th house of prison and confinement. Did he bring Erik along for the ride? He has his north node in Aquarius. We have Pluto, like I said, entering into Aquarius. Pluto's going to be on his north node, transforming his destiny at the end of November. It looks to me like he could be more likely to get out. Mars and Libra. Okay, so let's look at his houses. Let me see. Okay, he's a Virgo rising. His 5th house is ruled by Capricorn, no planets there in the house of romance. Sadly, people that have a Capricorn 5th house tend to have also difficult childhoods because your growing up isn't like you're not there's not this sense of freedom and play, which is what the 5th house really loves. The 5th house is associated with Leo energy, so it's just like the sun, play, happiness, creativity, joy, just like, Capricorn is really not that. Capricorn is more of an adult energy of like something that you have to do. It's like Saturn. It's working hard and pressure. And for him to have his 5th house in Capricorn, it seems to me like he was never able to be a kid. Um, but the good thing about Capricorn placements is that as they get older, they actually are able to have like a childhood as like an adult. You know what I mean? Like they get more lighthearted as they get older. And their life becomes more fun as they get older. It's like a little reversal. They do it in reverse. 4th house, Sagittarius, 4th house, the house of home, Sun, Mercury, and Neptune. The way he thinks, the Sun energy, his ego and experience, very heavily tied to his home life. Sagittarius is the free thinker, the philosopher, and Neptune there. I don't really like Neptune there because Neptune is confusion, and this can be a lot of confusion around the 4th house of home, a lot of confusion around the way that you think and process and like what you're seeing. With Mercury conjunct Neptune, it's like what I see and what I think I see. Like, do I even really see that? It's like, it could be like gaslighting, um, emotional and mental and other types of abuse to where you don't even know your own mind. Like, that's very sad. And both conjunct the sun. So his very sense of self is very ego. When I look at Eric's chart, I feel sad. When I look at Lyle's chart, I feel intuitively, I feel like calculating energy. And I could be totally wrong. Again, this is for entertainment purposes only. This is very intense subject matter. I was not there, so I cannot say 100%. But just looking at their charts alone, the birth charts are the birth charts of, on one hand, a victim through and through. Erik, a victim through and through. Born on the 27th, here to rise up from the ashes after intense, heavy experiences, here to become that humanitarian, North Node in Aquarius. And that's in his 6th house of day to day work, routines, pets. He could become an animal activist. Like, I mean, also, Okay, hold on. With Pluto moving from the fifth house of romance and fun and, Pluto and Capricorn, it's like he's probably had to really, since 2008, think about how he deals with. Oh, and I'm guessing right before that, Pluto was in his fourth house. Dang, of which Sagittarius. Okay. Okay, guys, now we're getting somewhere. I feel like he went from transforming the way that he looks at his home life, really having all that ugliness come up, the Pluto energy going down to the underworld when it comes to the home and all that during the trial. And then in 2008, that moved into Capricorn, which was, probably thoughts about love, relationships, um, fun, wanting to experience more joy, wanting to experience more love, more fun, thinking about what that means, and I don't know, experiencing some transformation and maybe a different understanding of what he wants out of life. Then the sixth house, that is your day-to-day routine. For him to have Pluto entering into his sixth house of day-to-day routine at the time of this, whatever, maybe resentencing, end of November, to me, this looks like getting out. This looks like your day-to-day life changing. This looks like being released. Wow. Okay. So we will see. I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to invite Lawyer Mogan here to answer some of our other questions. Actually, before we do that, let me pull a couple cards and then we'll invite him in here. Okay. So, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only, let's just do a past, present, future reading for the Menendez brothers. And when I say past, I mean like at the time of the murders, now, and then in the future I think it's like a resentencing. Hey, Michael, I'm just about to do a tarot reading and then we have a couple questions for you and then I know we got to go. Oh. So is it a resentencing in November? The the Menendez brothers? Okay, he doesn't know. Okay. Let's see. Okay, past, present, future. So in the past, I guess let's pull cards from them separately because the birth charts are so different. So in the past, the energy around Erik, the energy around Lyle, allegedly for entertainment purposes only. In the past, at the time of the murders. Oh, I didn't even say who I was. Okay. In the past, the time of the murders. So let's start with Lyle, the older brother. The past, present, future for Lyle. Oh, in the past. Three of Cups, celebrating. Everyone did say that they were like buying stuff, having fun, happy to have all this money. Their parents were gone. I think that's part of how they, people became so suspicious of them because they were definitely partying it up. Three of Cups. Okay. Celebration. I think he was very happy. Past. Okay. Present. What about now? With everything surrounding potential changes. Knight of Swords. Okay. Moving forward. Swords are the way that we think, the way that we act, um, the way that we communicate. I think he wants his message to be heard. Got to be careful with this because we talked about all the energy in his 11th house right now with Saturn in the 11th house. He's got to keep a handle on this. That could, I don't know, that could help or hurt. And the outcome of what's going on at the end of, oh, did y'all see that? It just flew. No, you guys, the Tower and the Hierophant. Are you kidding? Those flew out. Life lesson, a life lesson, and a something bad. Basically, something bad. The Hierophant is the teacher, and the Tower moment is, the Tower moment, the thing that breaks us. I don't think it's going to go well for him. I don't think it's going to go well for him at all. Dang, that is rough. Okay. For Erik, past, present, future. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. For Erik, in the past, on the time of the murders, allegedly. Five of Cups in reverse. Wow. He felt like this was the end to a time of a lot of crying. Like I said, based on his birth chart, I think that he was really victimized a lot. And I think he felt that and he carried that with him. So sad. 5 of Cups, this confirms all of the sadness that he had experienced in his life, and then for this card to come out, but to be in reverse, this is like relief. Finally feeling relieved that he doesn't have to be around those parents anymore, like, that's what this feels like. That is I'm telling you, it's, like, very sad. It's very sad for him. Okay, whoa. In the present, how Erik feels in the present. Justice in reverse. Whoa. The justice card, this is obviously the legal system. I think he's really worried that justice will not be done. Justice will not be served. Let's get a clarifier on that justice in reverse card. Why is he worried about justice not being done? Knight of Pentacles in reverse. This is his brother, Earth sign energy. I think he's worried about his brother. Something about his brother. I don't even know if they're able to talk now. One more clarifier, please. The Queen of Wands. This is a fiery female energy. I wonder if they're working with a female lawyer, with a female judge, but there's someone who is going to be an instrumental female in this present moment, someone that he's working with in this present moment. Okay, and what about the future outcome for Erik? Allegedly. Six of Swords, leaving a bad situation and moving on. Also, his brother had the swords. I think he's going to get out. I'm telling you. And then Pluto comes into his sixth house. I think he gets to leave. Okay, that's the tarot tea on that. I guess we'll see what actually happens. Okay, now I'd like to invite Lawyermog to the podcast. All right, Michael, welcome to the podcast, or welcome back, I should say.
Look out now.
First of all, before you get started, did you like the Joker movie?
Joker movie. I love movies, by the way, and I am a cinephile, whatever the hell.
You love movies.
I thought it was a little self-indulgent. I enjoyed the acting of both. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Turn away if you want to watch the movie and you haven't seen it. The acting by the two main characters I thought was very good. Obviously, Joaquin is incredible all the time. I was a little surprised it was a musical, but it actually...
Is that was self-indulgent?
No, just a little excess in some of the ways they wanted to depict depravity and mental illness. But for me, it actually was a decent break because when they were doing the musical parts, it was really kind of... I know. You asked me the question.
I know, but I forgot
I'm glad I gave a full answer.
I forgot we want to tell the barrel story too.
We might have to do that a different time. Okay.
No, we got this. You guys, we got this.
Anyway.
Okay, so wrap it up.
It was pretty good. I was extremely disappointed in the last 30 seconds.
Okay.
I really don't want to say what happens.
Don't.
It would ruin the whole thing for somebody. I see what they're trying to do. I dislike what they tried to do. Let's move on.
Okay.
But I enjoyed the movie. If you're going to see it in the theater, because her voice is astonishing and you need to have the sound of the theater to really enjoy it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, perfect.
What's next?
Okay, perfect. So will you please tell us about what the heck is going on with the Menendez brothers? Why they're even getting this potential opportunity to be free? What do you know?
Okay, so Menendez brothers, you probably watched different Netflix specials. And
there have been tons of documentaries about them.
As everybody knows, they executed their mother and father in the 80s, 89, I believe. The ages were like 18 and 22 at the time, something like that. Long history with the dad. I'm not sure how much you've talked about this.
I didn't get too into it.
Okay, the father, they literally could not, they being the state, could not find anybody to testify that he was a decent person. And numerous people came to say he was an absolute beast and a horrible person. And
then in I believe it was 2023 or it was 2003. I don't know. There's a 2 and a 3. One of the members of the band Menudo actually spoke in a documentary about how he had been a molestation victim from
So he allegedly molested both of the boys, which I think, okay, it's part of the going on. People may not remember, they were actually tried. The first time they were tried, they were not found guilty. It was a mistrial. And in each case, each boy, there was one person who held out who was who would not find him guilty of murder. They're charged in California, and under their particular penal code, there is a murder charge, but then they can also be convicted of a lesser included. So the lesser included in this particular situation was manslaughter. So in order to get a conviction for murder, they had to all 12 find murder, and one person on each of the boys is my recollection, um, wouldn't go above manslaughter, and as a result, there was a mistrial the first time. So they retried him, and now the state obviously knew what the defense would be. So they tried to combat the defense and really discredit it by just claiming that the boys made all this history of sexual abuse and abuse, made it all up. And they called it the abuse excuse in the trial. And it was kind
Jeez.
of their little catchy zing that this is the abuse excuse, don't pay attention to it. And ultimately they were convicted the second time around. That's kind of the history. So and they were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, pretty much ending it. The only ways you'd be able to get out on a life without parole is if there is a habeas corpus case, which is a meaning they something that would affect their constitutional rights, civil rights. So like their attorneys were not properly prepared, were incompetent, or some of those kinds of things. Um, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think a couple of it. But anyway, in this particular case, what the facts are, the allegations are now, is that they should be granted either a resentencing or a new trial because of subsequently discovered uh, evidence that could have been available but wasn't. And so
Oh.
there are two pieces of evidence. One she's already mentioned was the Menudo kid coming out and saying that their father, I think his name was Jose, molested him as well. And so giving more credence to it being not the abuse excuse, but a real thing.
Mhm.
And then also in approximately a few years ago, in the first set of trials, they had cousins who testified on behalf of the boys.
Mhm.
And they also said that the boys had told them that they had been abused before the incident happened, and nobody believed them. And they even let it be
Mm.
known to some of the other family members, and people have just kind of under the swept it under the rug because the guy was very powerful. He was the head of CBS Records, I think, for one Capitol Records for a while. He was head of Hertz Rental Cars. He was the CEO. In fact, he's the guy who hired OJ to do those commercials. If you remember him, like I remember him. Anyway, so he was a big deal, and people were scared to piss him off. So one of the cousins discovered a letter written by, I believe, Lyle, which would have been, it was dated months, like 8 to 9 months, I believe, before the murders. And in that, I think I have some of the quotes here. It says, let's see, shoot. Sorry.
Okay.
Trying to do this on the fly because I just
Mhm.
came in here.
We appreciate you. Everybody give Lawyermog a little emoji in the comments.
Okay. The
Give him an emoji.
one of the cousins, what's the person's name? Andy Cano, Cano. I may be saying that incorrectly. That person's mother died in 2003. Going through the boxes of her stuff, they found a letter. All right. So it was a letter written to his cousin by Erik in December, 8 months before the murders. And it says, in part, quote, "I've been trying to avoid dad. It's still happening, Andy, but it's worse for me now. Every night I stay up thinking he might come in. I'm afraid. He's crazy. He's warned me 100 times about telling anyone, especially Lyle." Close quote. So that document now has been presented to the court in a motion for resentencing or for new trial. And obviously, just so everybody's clear, I'm not licensed in California. I think it's less likely that they would be a resentencing, because that would still mean that the conviction would stand and they would just be trying to drop it from murder to a manslaughter. I think a jury has spoken on that. So I think that the real um, remedy would be a new trial because of new evidence. I think that's more
Oh,
realistic than a
wow.
resentencing.
A new trial. So is that what they have planned for November 19th?
It's
Or
it's probably the hearing to determine uh, what what's going to happen. Now, here's the problem I see in their presentation.
okay.
Even with this newfound evidence about the dad, the scary, the him raping him, and they testified. If you watch a couple of the documentaries, or it was on court TV when I was little, so or younger, so I saw this stuff because I watch court TV all the time. I was addicted to it. They talk about being forced to give their dad oral sex in the trial. I mean, it was everywhere. Like,
Okay, can I jump in because I
sure, sure,
found
sure,
it?
sure, sure.
So, according to Variety magazine, Menendez brothers' new hearing set as DA weighs evidence of molestation amid success of Netflix's Monsters. Okay. A new court hearing for Eric and Lyle Menendez has been set for November 29th. I kept saying 19th. Sorry, guys. November 29th. More than 28 years after they were convicted of murdering their parents, and 2 weeks after their story was dramatized in the popular Netflix series Monsters. Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon made the announcement at a press conference on Thursday and said there has been new evidence discovered that the brothers were allegedly molested by their father, Jose Menendez. In quotes, we have been given evidence. We have been given a photocopy of a letter, like Michael just said, that allegedly was sent by one of the brothers to another family member talking about him being the victim of molestation. Gascon said, we've also got evidence that was provided by the defense, by his lawyers, that one of the members of the Menudo band alleged that he was molested by the father. Okay.
So that's the new evidence, and so there has to be new evidence to undercut a prior conviction. So what I think what the DAs may be doing is they're reviewing it to decide whether or not they're just going to concede it and let them have a new trial. I think that's a little bit long shot. Here's the problem I see. All of this stuff, and all of these things, and I've got. I mean, personally, I can tell you about this another story here in a second, but all of these things, really good information to help them in the conviction for the murder of their father. None of it exonerates them for the murder of their mother. And that's the distinction that I see, that is, they don't have an excuse for why they executed their mom, except for, well, hold on, except for they kind of confess to it in the phone call conversations they have in this new documentary that I watched the other night, where they just couldn't come up with a way not to kill her and try to get away with killing the father. So even if there's this evidence that could get a manslaughter on killing the father because he was a molester, horrible, all those things, there's no excuse for them executing their mom. They shot her in the head with a shotgun. Go ahead.
People have alleged that she was aware of the abuse and allowed it to continue. So they also had the same anger
Mhm.
towards their mother.
But anger's not the thing that it's fear. Anger,
Well, the
I appreciate that they were angry, but that's what she's not the perpetrator, and knowledge is not what would be able to get them off for a manslaughter charge.
Oh, so you mean it's like it has to be sort of like a self-defense type of vibe
Exactly.
where they killed him
Ex-
because they
because
didn't want to be abused anymore.
correct. And so she was never an abuser. Whether she had knowledge, there were a lot of people in the family allegedly that had knowledge. The aunts and uncles also knew about it, and they all swept it under the rug. So the mother who hid the letter, who died in 2003, of this cousin, knew
Hmm.
about it ahead of time. They didn't kill her either. So
Could
it,
there be a
there
world where the mother participated?
well, could be, but that's never been alleged. And I think in this one documentary, it just the way it was laid out in that, and they're talking with these guys in interviews on the phone now. They're in their 50s now.
Into it? For
Well,
me, I can't.
for me, and I don't, again, I'm not licensed in California, so I'm not up on exactly what the burdens of proof will have to be in this trial, and whether or not the DA's office decides to concede this and just request that they give him a new trial or resentencing. Resentencing, I in my head, I can't make sense of that. How the convictions could be stand and they do a resentencing. The gist of that essentially would be if they got resentenced, the manslaughter maximums have already been met because they've been in so long, so they'd be immediately released. I don't think that's likely.
Okay.
Now, it could be granted a new trial, and then a DA could say, now we're not going to charge him or we're not going to retry him. And then they would be released that way too. Or the DA could say, yeah, we're going to grant him a retrial and then redo the trial, which I don't know. I think it's a long shot at best, but it's interesting. I mean,
Do you think there's a chance that one could be released and the other not?
I don't know. I
Maybe the
think they're both
younger,
culpable. They both were in on it. They were both,
they're about the same age.
well, it doesn't matter about their age. It matters about what they did. And they were
What if
both
one planned it and was like the mastermind behind it and one
irrelevant.
okay.
I mean, they could be charged with something called felony murder, and felony murder is the likely killing of a person. Let's say if I'm going to do a robbery, a home invasion, I'm not planning to go kill anybody, but within that home invasion that I am trying to do, I kill somebody.
Mm.
Then I'm guilty of felony murder, even though I didn't mean to kill him. So Eric and Lyle, if one of them's the mastermind, the other one is not, but he knows that he's in part of the conspiracy to commit murder. Well, what's the natural repercussions of a conspiracy to commit murder? Somebody might be killed, and she'd be guilty of felony murder. Uh, we have that in our state. Again, I don't know if California does. Most states have felony murder.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Closing statements about this? Thoughts?
I was gonna give a little personal touch too. As a child who grew up in an abusive family with a father who was titanically abusive and went to prison also for it. That's how I grew up. I can totally get with them killing the father, but uh, like, my mom took whippings too, and the gist I get from looking at their documentary is they just killed mom because they couldn't figure out how to get away with killing the dad. They weren't planning on ever being caught. They were planning on making it look like an home invasion, and it was somebody else because their dad was hated by so many people. And when they did get caught, or when they couldn't figure out how they could not kill their mom and get away with it, so she just became collateral damage. I don't think there's any justification for that. And because of that part of it, I find it really hard to believe that a judge would grant them a new trial. But
But we
I've
also
been wrong about cases before.
we also don't know that their mom was anything like your mom. Their mom might
Well, I'm
have
not saying she
not
was.
given a crap.
She didn't have a way to fight back. It was a different time too. That was the 70s versus now where it's completely different and women weren't listened to, women weren't protected.
And your mom was part of the case, was the person that actually helped to establish
In
new
the state
case law.
in the state of Kansas, my mom's case is a precedent setting case on a couple different fronts. One, it was the first time where a person was convicted in the state of Kansas for aggravated burglary, where there was no breaking into the dwelling. It was a opening of the door, and I was the little. And if you ever read the case, I'm the little boy that they refer to opening the door. And then my mom terminated my father's ability to be in the house lawfully, and so that allowed. It was first time a burglary conviction in our state was allowed to stand when there was no breaking, because that's one of the elements of the crime is
It's
it has to be
breaking an
breaking
entry.
into the home to commit another felony therein. So that's one place. And then also it was the first time, it used to be called terroristic threat in the state of Kansas. Now it's called criminal threat. It was the first time that a conviction was allowed to stand when prior bad acts about my father were allowed to be testified to about a present situation to show the present state of mind of the victim, i.e., my mom. And so she was allowed to testify about stuff that went back for decades, probably decades. Yeah, a couple decades, probably.
And your mom was also a Virgo, which we talked about before Michael got in here about I was telling you guys about Virgo placements and how Cassie, also a Virgo, was a victim, but then now she's the person that started this snowball effect that could end up bringing Diddy to justice. So that's a Virgo thing too. Virgos Sometimes we'll become the victim of something, and then they can fight for justice in the future and turn it around for good, like your mom did. She did a lot of good. I'm sure she helped a lot of people,
Oh, well, my mom took a lot of the lumps that created the shields that now protect
Yeah, which is amazing.
abused people, at least in our state. So
we want to honor and remember her for sure. Yep.
always do.
Always do. Well, do you think that you can tell?
You can make me cry.
And also, I was going to say, also, thank you for sharing that with us, Michael. I know that's hard.
Go ahead.
So these, these topics, these subjects are rough, and I'm actually going to include something for the abuse hotline in the comments and up here on the screen. If anybody's going through something like this, our hearts go out to you, and we just want to give you so much love. And please reach out. There are resources, and there are ways that you can get help. And it's such a horrible, horrible thing to go through, and it's not your fault.
The first time somebody hurts you should be the last.
Yes, amen.
Don't know. Just
we can't say F on YouTube. So say it again. Say don't mess around.
Don't mess around. Just
don't take your time.
Just bleep it.
I can't.
Okay.
That's like I don't have the bleep thing, so I have to find and download. Beep. I'm editing these myself. Okay. Which reminds me, please subscribe, share this with your friends, leave something, because the more views we get, the more of a budget I can get to hire an editor to edit the podcast. Please. It would be so great for all of us. We'd be having even more fun. Okay. So do we have time? It's 5 minutes. We don't have time.
We don't.
So we will do another episode. It'll either be a bonus episode, because I told you guys I have that ghost hunter coming on as well. That'll be just like a bonus video that comes out, but it'll be ASAP. I'm going to get him to tell us the barrel story. So there's more Spooktober coming your way. Don't worry. All right. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Appreciate. Love you guys. Michael, thank you for being here. Give him your sign off.
What's my sign off?
I don't know. We need to come up with a sign off for you.
Court adjourned.
I love it. Okay. Court adjourned. All right. Bye, guys.